So I'm going to just give a tiny little intro. And this is the name of my channel is the Can We Talk Now podcast, which is the reason for the title is because I literally have had patients from fibromyalgia patients and a bunch of people who are growing for themselves to treat themselves. In Ireland, it's the laws are archaic and it's not going anywhere fast. So we're in a bit of an exciting moment. We just had the report from a long-awaited. It took years for a thing called the MCAP, which is a program, which is our medical cannabis access program, and it finally the report has been released in the last couple of days, making 35 recommendations. Really, this is all just the outsourcing of decisions that politicians have not got the backbone to make on their own. They should be legislating. This could all happen overnight, and so. Incredibly, we're still kind of going backwards and forwards in Ireland, and it's very, very sad. But on the 31st of January, and that's why it's amazing to talk to you and get some feel for what happened in Canada and legally. And so on the 31st of January, we have a bill. It's only a decrim bill, and it's the tiniest little decrim bill. We don't have any right to grow. We don't have anything in it. And then it's it has to get beaten out in our parliament, the Dáil, and hopefully a few people they don't have an aisle to cross, but hopefully they drop the whips, we call them, so that everybody has a whip that keeps them in line. So hopefully the whips will be dropped and people will get to actually vote in what is a once in a generation possibility to actually change the laws in this place. We've had a citizens' assembly that were done with 200 speakers, 120 hours, professionals, for every kind of professional, but the overwhelming evidence given by all these different professionals was negative. It was all about the negative experience. Is about certainly the lived experiences, and there has been a lot of bad experience. And in Dublin, particularly in the 80s, just like Lisbon and all these cities, like Liverpool, Bilbao, all port cities, because the heroin came in at the same time, and so they all had a heroin crisis in the late 80s. So there's still a trauma in this country, and there's still a trauma amongst politicians, amongst all our legal systems since that era. It's what led to the Portuguese making their model where they decriminalized everything, and they saved all those lives that they've done, and they made a very successful model that's been there for 20 years. So that's the background of our call. I'm looking at your bio, and there will be all the links to everything because we have an amazing woman here tonight. And I've links to all her websites, and there's a lot. I just looked at your LinkedIn, and so I had a clue how to introduce it. So we're here. Welcome to my humble little show, which is hardly a show. Alison Myrden, all the way from, where are you in Canada?
Burlington, Ontario, Canada.
How about that? And one of the great drivers behind Canadian legalization, as far as I can see it, you've been what is it, CEO or director of the medical marijuana? Yes, for 34 years.
You betcha. We were telling people about cannabis as medicine. And again, I'm a retired corrections officer. Let me back up for a second, Stephen.
Yes, fantastic.
And as a corrections officer, I honestly stood up in the courts and told the judges every time I had a young offender in court with me that drugs were not a health issue and were a health issue, and did not belong in a court of law. And that was the start of things. That was 35 years ago. I was constantly doing it. The judge would lower his gavel and say, "Be quiet or I'll charge you with contempt of court." And everybody in the courtroom would just laugh and wink and give me a thumbs up. And honestly, people have to speak out because people don't realize, Stephen, how many of us feel the same way. Right? It's all around the world, my friend. I knew it then, and I knew when I first came out in the media decades ago that I had to put it on every single dinner table all around the world in order for people to understand how people like us with multiple sclerosis and other illnesses especially dealt with these substances. So as, again, a retired law enforcement officer, I've been trying to end prohibition of all drugs, every single one of them, The harder the drug, the more it needs regulation and control, and has to be in the hands of someone who can do something properly with it, rather than leave it to the street to be distributed.
Absolutely.
So again, I've been battling MS since I was under the age of 10 years old. They diagnosed me. I have the worst pain known to medicine, called the suicide disease, in my face and head 24 hours a day, that I've had for over 35 years. And it doesn't stop me, my friend. It drives me further.
My God. Well, I mean, there's nothing to say, only congratulate. Like, we can only, we're so grateful to have you leading the charge, and to be there for 34 years. I mean, we share the same bloody disease, PPMS, and like mine, it's famous for being a slow burner, and mine would have been, just a 10-year kind of progression. Well, maybe I see it as a bit more retrospectively now, but to be considered to be there diagnosed at 10, and this extra bonus 60. That you got.
And I just turned 60. I've been living with it and when I was young, in my 20s, when I was not able to walk and I was having all kinds of physical problems, I went downhill really badly in my 20s. And doctors told my parents and my partner, Gary, of 36 years, that they would be spoon feeding me in a nursing home if I was even still alive by the age of 40. I celebrate every single year I'm alive. Gary just threw a big party for me for my 60th birthday. And I'm not going to stop, my friend.
Man, so you don't look like it. You're unreal, Alison. And, tell us a little. Look, can I push you into corners a little bit? Tell us the journey about cannabis, about legalization in Canada, because we're hoping that we're on the verge of dominoes falling in Europe, and so tell us about cannabis. How did it come around? You were instrumental.
Know why? And I will tell you, because again, this pain in my face and that drives me to so much, Stephen. You wouldn't believe it. And I also did not want my progressive MS when I was young. I was like, no, that's the wrong diagnosis. I'm not sick. And now I'm on my third electric wheelchair. I'm 60 years old. I still walk every day. But what drove me then was the fact that I was looking everywhere for help when I was young, and I went to the libraries. And then in the early or late 1990s, 2000s, when the internet started, I started going on the internet, and I went to a place called GW Pharmaceuticals in Europe. And they're now called something else, the name escapes me. But GW Pharmaceuticals then had a page written about multiple sclerosis. And one of the main lines that I took to all of my representatives here in Canada in the legislature said and claimed that cannabis halts the progression of MS. And that line, literally, in that piece of paper that I printed out that day, I took to my doctors that day. I told everybody, I sent it to my members of parliament, and I said, that is my medicine. That's my choice. And it's all about choice. With human rights, it's the choice of what you do.
It's human rights, man, all day long. And I'm in Spain here. Like, Spain managed, it's about 20 years, more than 20 years ago, managed to get a few human rights laws, like court cases, over the line that made possible the social clubs, which is the greatest kind of solution for cannabis in the world, and yet it's never been regulated properly. And even though the cannabis social club peoples, we've always been asking for this to be regulated properly. Again, politics interfering and getting in the way, and it's.
Can I interject? It's not just about cannabis, my friend, and that's the thing where a lot of people misunderstand things. It's about ending prohibition.
Absolutely.
It's prohibition that's in our way. It's everybody prohibiting things that we know are our rights, or our human rights to be able to do. I just watched a video in Norway that said the same thing. They're actually going to the legislature there about the fact that this is a human right. People have to understand, again, when I went to my legislature, when I went to all the politicians, when I went to Ottawa, when I went to Parliament Hill, and I spoke in the parliamentary press room over and over and over for years because I was so determined, I loaded myself with information that I knew was correct. I did my homework. And so I want people to know, if you're going to take this seriously, do your homework and find out good, bad, and ugly, and then decide, right? Again,
I've seen that Norway case, and it's a because I lived in Finland for a period of time, and that's like Scandinavia has a very repressive socially it has a very repressive attitude to anything, to marijuana, to any kind of drugs, and it's there kind of in socially in built into it. So hopefully, look at you kind of feel, but that's a group of Norwegians that are absolutely fighting for the human rights, and that's the way to go as far as I believe that.
that. Again, it's such a bigger picture than a lot of people see. I
Yeah.
think the thing is again that people get confused and people get sidetracked. I'm sorry, I'm looking at this. People get sidetracked, and what they end up doing is again fighting for things that are already out there that people have already said. We want to bring something new to the table. Again, my latest fight, and this is in the courts here in Canada with my lawyers. I have a team of lawyers that have been with me for decades, Stephen.
Wow.
They came on board with me because I was out in public talking about cannabis, and they were all worried I was going to get arrested. So they all said, "Let me be your lawyer." So it's pretty funny the way I gathered them all, but they've been such a big help because now again, psychedelics.
I'll join you with a little vape myself here, So it's been a long week for myself too.
Good medicine, my friend. But
Absolutely.
psychedelics, just before we started the show, I had a violent pain in my face and head, up in my front of my head that I couldn't get rid of for almost 3 hours. I took a handful of mushrooms that I'm legally allowed to consume through my doctors, magic mushrooms. And
Are you the first in the world? I read that you're the first in the world to be a registered psychedelic patient.
2017.
Since when?
2017.
Fantastic, man. I mean, this is maverick pioneering, and it's unbelievable. I'm so honored to be here.
You're amazing. There aren't a lot of us who'll step out like this. So yeah. I thank you from the bottom of my heart, Stephen.
Well, the psychedelics. I've had a long love affair with psychedelics. I think that I spent a good 4 or 5 years. Ireland. We have our own mushrooms. We have decent mushrooms and psilocybin. So you kind of grow up around it. And I've lived we have parts of Ireland in the north. I lived up in the north of Ireland in an area which is actually famous now for that. What's it called? Game of Thrones. I never watched TV. Yes. Yeah. That's a very, very beautiful part of Ireland, but it's also just coincidentally, it is unbelievable for mushroom growing. That whatever the combination of the sea air and that place is tripping out for about 5 or 6 months.
They're safer than cannabis, Stephen.
Yeah. Absolutely. Oh no! I look at and it's only now beginning to come out that the value of psilocybin, and I've felt this for years because I believe that an awful lot of drug addiction and problems like that, people just don't know how to kind of be aware. They're not brain aware, and
they don't have the information now, Stephen. Nobody talks about it. That's why I'm out doing interviews all around the world regularly.
You're amazing.
Was in New York, LA. I can't even remember another one in Toronto.
Australia is kind of on the psilocybin front. They've had quite big pilots and stuff. So there's a couple of universities down there that have really been kind of at the forefront of in Australia. But it's happening. It's all happening. But it has to. It's such a drag to get people to change their mind. How do you see that? Can I ask that a question? Because there's a kind of feeling amongst lots of activists and stuff around the world that there's there's massive lobbies going into governments that come in from pharma, and pharma are so wealthy and they've got so much power, and so to compete with, what are kind of broke activists. It's an easy fight for them. So do you see? Is it pharma? I mean, a lot of it is. They're all headquartered in Ireland, by the way. All the European headquarters are in Ireland. So we're very. I believe, kind of strangled by the lobbying.
We have a big fight in our hands. Here in Canada, one of the biggest things when we legalized cannabis was the fact that pharmaceutical companies weren't getting what they thought they should get. So. because of that, I'm sort of a player that everybody again can benefit. So I don't mind if Big Pharma takes a little and we take a little, and
Yeah, sure.
it's distributed even. But I don't want to see just Big Pharma, win from this, because patients like me, now again that it's been out there and that for decades now that we've been using this as medicine, again, I can walk, I can do these things, I can go up and down my stairs, I can do everything I have to. I just get really tired really fast. That's why I have a electric wheelchair. So if I'm doing these, for example, in public, then I can't stay on my feet for more than a few minutes before I start to wobble. So
likewise, I have no issue with pharma. I'm inherent. I went and did HSCT in Moscow, and so I'm inherently. I stopped my. There you go. Yeah, come on. There has to be a kind of. There's a place for everything, and there has. But it has. Yeah, but it can't be blocking. It can't be one. Can't be blocking the other, and that's the problem.
I just posted an actual video today about LSD because that's something else I use for the pain on my face and head. Was that neurologically takes the pain from trigeminal neuralgia, cluster headache, which is what I have. I have both. That takes it immediately out of your head. It takes it away almost instantly. I think it's within 6 minutes I can get rid of it. So when I posted this video about LSD today, it was all about the medical benefits. I want people not to be afraid, because I was terrified for years when I was using cannabis to even turn to things like LSD, because I'd had heroin and cocaine and opium and all these other things that have done thousands of milligrams of morphine for years. I thought LSD was going to really do me in. That was one of the magical things about LSD, was as soon as I took it, I had no pain in my face and head, and I didn't need all those pills.
How about that? How about that? It has the I would say, like, it's a kind of justified stigma. When we were doing a lot of tripping and stuff, we always had a thing that when we went off on an adventure, the idea would be everybody would get kind of clubbed together and go, nobody here end up in the newspaper on Monday morning as the boy who thought he could fly, and we all headed off on our trip, because I was living in this area of Northern Ireland, which is, it's beautiful. It's all cliffs, and there is real kind of geographical dangers.
But mushrooms, again, a lot of people that I know in Canada use mushrooms and go hiking. Take mushrooms and go hiking. Anything with nature. These sorts of things bring you closer to nature, and also start to make you realize what's really important in your life.
Absolutely. And
right? I think Bob Marley said the poorest people he knows are the ones with money.
Yeah. The Causeway coastline is it's famous. It's got the Giant's Causeway on it. It's got all this Lord of the Rings stuff. It's got Dunluce Castle. You could not go wrong, with getting. Your soul is just so lifted. You literally can lie down on the ground and pick. You could pick 1,000 from around you. There's like that, and it's there every season. But it's about that thing about being in touch with nature, but understanding yourself, and that's what I always I kind of got very, went into the Huxley books, you went into the reading, the Carlos Castaneda, did all the literature, and but it was, for me, it was like I wanted to absolutely understand how my brain worked in all these situations, and for that reason, I've never had the only danger of addiction that I would ever have since would be boozing too much, maybe, or something, but it's really, I'm understand.
Highly addictive alcohol is, tobacco is, cannabis, mushrooms are not. They're the lowest on the lethal dose chart level. Magic mushrooms is at the very bottom. In other words, there's no lethal dose of magic mushrooms. Cannabis, they even say there's a lethal dose of. But we know, and we've learned, that you have to actually consume 50,000 cannabis cigarettes, like the monkeys did, in order to actually have any problems. So I'm not a 50,000 cannabis cigarette a day smoker. I'm not worried.
There's 4 people dying. 4 people. The latest figures are 4 people dying a day in Ireland from alcohol related, whatever, and that's, it's shocking.
It's so sad. Cannabis actually is replacing, as our psychedelics, replacing and helping alcoholism.
Yeah.
And
That's what I mean. You get to understand your psychology, and that does nothing else is required. Once you understand your psychology, I quit smoking after 20 years. You can do these things because you know how your brain works, and but at the end of the day, cannabis kind of for me, I've had it around me since I'm preteen, I don't know. And but then it only became medical when I introduced the illness, and but for me it's always been something that I've enjoyed, and there's not enough positive stories, I believe, in certainly in the stuff that's been happening around Irish drug policy discussion. So tell me more about Canada in how you what was you were to the fore of it, like where was the breaks that you kind of make breakthroughs?
Well, originally, Canada was not interested at all in legalizing cannabis, so we had to go to court. It wasn't the government just decided all of a sudden, at the kindness of their hearts, that they were going to help us. It's the fact that we went to court 12 times for medical cannabis here in Canada, and we won every time because we proved as patients that it was against our charter right. We could not, if we chose cannabis as medicine, again, it's about choice and human rights. But people don't realize that as a human here on this earth, you can consume anything you want, licit or illicit, especially in Canada, in order to feel better. And I think that's what the driving force for me was. I'm a retired corrections officer, and I knew the Charter of Rights and know it well. And one of the things that I always went on was that specific, part of the Charter of Rights that says, again, anything illicit or licit, you are allowed to use to feel better in this country. So check your Charter rights, and if they're not what you think, speak up. Because again, we changed a lot of things in the legislature because of how we were. And the only reason, again, they listened was because the courts mandated it. So it wasn't, again, just the government on their own saying, oh my goodness, you're right. Not even. It's a big fight. And now, again, I have another court case for psychedelics because the country doesn't want to legalize those even as medicine. We've decriminalized I shouldn't say all drugs, but certain drugs in British Columbia, Canada, out on the west coast of Canada. We've decriminalized for that promise due to overdoses because there's such a serious problem with, again, drugs like fentanyl, heroin, and cocaine out there. So, but again, though, Stephen, it's a big problem everywhere around the world. Overdoses are a huge issue. If we can get involved from the beginning in helping people who are maybe addicted because of like painkillers or things like that to doctors. I know many people myself have done that route. And now all of a sudden they're addicted to some serious substances. So again, you need to get the help and try to understand and make the government understand that, again, they are the ones who are going to control it because they're the ones who are going to come up with all the programs that are needed, whether they be harm reduction programs or just cannabis lounges. Like you said, allowing cannabis lounges again after 2 decades. It's shocking that the government again has voted against cannabis lounges when cannabis again does not kill people.
Never did, and that's the most outrageous thing. Like, I mean, all the drugs that they don't, and they can never point to the fact that somebody overdosed from this. So it's just absurd, and it goes on and on. It's very frustrating.
But in Canada, again, we've legalized for everybody in the country now. So now I am not a medical patient so much. I don't have a medical license, so I haven't for years because I just don't care. All my friends can grow as much cannabis as they can, and I get lots from everybody.
Yeah, well, you've upgraded. You've upgraded to the only.
But I'm fighting for a license for magic mushrooms here in Canada so that I can be, again, a patient to speak out about that legally and say, hey, this is
you're an incredible advocate. It's like the highest tier level advocate that we have in the world, because and then we don't, like, it's only through these kind of, when things get legalized and freed up and different things, that anything gets studied properly. It's
so true. Yeah. If you don't speak about it, it's not going to be heard.
Yeah, I
It's
mean, this
really
is one
important.
of the great issues that we have in Ireland would be the medical industry is
Yeah.
because it's still like the endocannabinoid system is still not being taught in any college. So we don't have any doctors that know anything about this about the things that they're prescribing for, and it's kind of there's a massive quantum leap. It feels like still to be made. And you go, how do you make it? And
It's up to you guys to educate those doctors. My doctor, my family doctor is from Norway, originally, not from Canada. And I went to her, and the first thing I said to her was, "Hey, doc, will marijuana hurt me?" And she said, "Alison, Mariana won't hurt you at all." And I said, "Oh, good. I wouldn't hurt Mariana either." But bottom line, she looked into it 35 years ago because of that conversation. Because I was telling her then, I went to my doctors, I was young, and I was like, I'm using cannabis, I'm using this, I'm trying to feel better, I need help, I've got to get something. So cannabis has been on my plate. I've been legal since 1994 in this country.
94. How about that? And you used the expression there a while ago, where like before the internet, before the internet.
Yes, that's
That's
how
how
old I am.
you are. Yes, no, you did, man. You're looking fantastic, and look at with all the kind of illness and all this and this. I mean, it's such an outrageous label to put on anything. What is it? The suicide? What the suicide condition? Is it?
Side disease. It's actually, I have both cluster headaches and I have bilateral trigeminal neuralgia, which is a big word, medical term, but
Yeah,
this means a wicked pain in my head all the time and 24 hours a day. So I
yeah.
don't usually get relief unless, again, I can find something like mushrooms or cannabis or something to stop the pain for a bit. I take a lot of pills. So don't get me wrong, I took a lot of morphine, etc.
I've seen the list on your website, and anybody wants to see, we're going to put your website down below in the description, and people got to go there and see what's going on with this lady.
But that's only my natural stuff. I don't list my medications because I don't want to compete with anybody in the world.
Right. Okay.
Now, when I
Good
went out in the
policy.
media, when I went out in the media decades ago, I actually originally was taking 32 pills a day, 2,000 milligrams of morphine a day, heroin and cocaine. And that was before I had cannabis. And then all of a sudden I started to put cannabis in my regime and I started to be able to omit most of those pills. So, again, it's been a journey for sure. But again, I want to make
Absolutely.
sure that anybody coming up who's just new to this learns exactly what I do faster than I do.
Yeah.
I don't want it to take 30 years for everybody else.
It shouldn't. And I mean, it's like I tell people again and again. I had to stop and search in a kind of festival 35 years ago when I was like just gone 18, but I was technically 17. And you're kind of going 35 years ago that, but I got away with it. Very rare, a kind of courthouse poor box donation. But I should have been criminalized, and that would have altered my life forever. You know what I mean? So the last 35 years. I've been living all over the world, and I lived in Brazil, things like that. And it comes back, but you're kind of putting people into a justice system that is, and they say that like we just had figures, one of our politicians, a good guy, Adon or Reardon, who announced that there's 6,500. This is just Ireland. Ireland's tiny. 6,500 people done for personal use in Ireland last year, and police claim again and again and again ad nauseum, they claim that they're not doing anybody for personal use. It's just simply not true. Then all these people enter the justice system, and that's another massive rights issue, that or criminalizing young people, after every festival. It's an insanity that has to stop.
Well, Stephen, that's again why I spoke out because I worked in for years, pardon me, with young offenders and was constantly in court 5 days a week. I was teaching the staff, I was actually training staff. But also, when I was doing things like that, it was ultimately important to me that I speak my piece because I was coming from a different area because I did have MS. So all of a sudden, I'm not only a corrections officer, I'm a corrections officer with MS, and I have something to say, right? So, and everybody knew that then. That's why from 1994, I got that license for cannabis. I didn't care. I didn't care who knew or who didn't, who wasn't interested. I told everybody. And because of that too, Stephen, that's what made people accept it even more, because all of my friends started coming out of the closet to me saying, oh yeah, well, I use this too, and it really helps me here, and oh yeah, it does this for my sleep, or it does this for my knee, or helps my back, or I mean,
we have people. We have a lady down in Alicante in Spain here. She's here for the clubs and for the bit of freedom that you get in Spain. But she's like she's a lot of chronic pain issues, and not. It's gone from 900, a prescription of 900 pills a month to zero with cannabis. And so this is, yes. And so she would love to be living in Ireland, but she has to be here because of her health. I'm here for health. So we have health refugees dotted all around. Spain goes out to the Canaries, and it goes out to the Balearics. You have Ibiza and all these places. So there's clubs everywhere. So people have got safe access here. And then 2 hours away, Dark Ages.
Yeah, Canada again is trying to teach the world that slowly but surely we're moving in the right direction. You watch Canadian news because we'll be in it for psychedelics. I'm with a group called Theracell, which is a group of end-of-life care patients. And they're fighting for substances like LSD and magic mushrooms and MDA because they're dying. I'm not dying, but I'm eligible for this program called the Medical Assistance in Dying Program. They came to me years ago about it, and I said, I don't want to die. I would rather have psychedelics. And they said, that's a problem because the government won't accept that. So that's my fight.
You're going to die first.
For sure. I have people ask me all the time if I'm still going to be here. They keep saying, I got stuff to do.
And you're an inspiration, and it's for everybody out there as well. People who lose... because it is disheartening for activists and stuff. It feels like you're banging your head against the wall forever. And it's great to see somebody who's kind of continues to break through the barriers and doesn't tire, but it does take a lot of energy. And when you have, I know what PPMS is, man, the fatigue is just, I go through phases where I'm fully on it, but then it's cumulative. And so I'm currently in a kind of weekend where I'm really, catching up, That's how it is.
I'm coming on the issue that I was dealing with, that I've been on antibiotics for the last couple of months. So I haven't been up to physically as much. But I will tell you, in May, there's a global marijuana march, the first Saturday of every May here in Canada. And we actually brought it to Canada, 5 of us, decades ago. I marched around with 4 people on their feet, and I was in my electric wheelchair holding a big sign, and we went through the streets of Toronto. The next year, Stephen, there were over 50,000 people joining us.
Wow. This is
again this year, May 3rd, 2024, Queen's Park, Toronto. If you're in the area, come join us for the Global Marijuana March.
There you go. People, get your flights and get over there. There's also the old June 5th, the first Saturday of every June. There's a kind of global march that was born in New York a long time ago, and that's got big in Spain. Like Spain has this massive frustration. We've had a kind of change of government that means for the first time we have a health minister who's actually an anesthesiologist, and she's a pain specialist. So she she understands what it's about. And
I should write her.
What's that?
I should write her.
Yeah, you should, because and she's only just got into position. But we have an amazing advocate in Spain called Carola Perez, and Carola has been fighting for all of this for 10, 15 years, and she's had massive frustrations because the last few years there's been a bouncing around of ministers, health ministers. So finally, after like a merry-go-round of ministers, now we have one who actually knows about pain. And it's important that because the last guys were just going, a lot of these politicians don't have a clue. And so now we have one, and that I think that what I feel is going to happen here is that Spain will come out of this. There's a really good health system as a basis, but it'll come out of here now with a very good access program, and that will be well thought out, and they have everything here. They have to grow. Everything is here in Spain. So Yeah, it really is like that. So now the big thing is about this regressive nonsense that this local politician, he's only a local politician, Barcelona's come out, he wants to close all the clubs. That can't happen. In March 17th, Paddy's Day, Cannabis will kick off for, I don't know what, 20th or 25th edition, but there'll be 30,000 people there, you know. And
Yes.
then yes, and then on the March 5th, there'll be March the marijuana. There'll be you know, they will put 50,000 people, 60,000 people on the streets in Madrid, and I really think that there's going to be strong pushes in Spain. We need a few countries to crack, you know, to kind of get a bit of momentum inside the EU.
You know what? Not everybody, but Stephen, I know you're a strong voice, and not everybody will do what I do specifically. But
Yeah.
I would love to contact your people in Parliament. I will write them. Don't put it past me, my friend. And I
Yeah.
will tell them all about things that we deal with here again.
You could shake up a few of
It's a
our.
worldwide issue. Chronic pain has been an issue for years, and I just again posted something today on social media about how psychedelics help constant chronic pain.
They have been avoiding it in Ireland. It's really it's not strange. That's why we have to really look at it in this from a sinister point of view.
Prohibition.
Yeah, because it's like we have this medical cannabis access program that's not really fit for purpose. It's got four. I have MS. MS would be the top condition. It's right there, but it doesn't cover neuropathic pain. It's only there for spasticity. So, but then neuropathic. Yeah, and pain is nowhere in the allowances. And after five or 6 years, there's only 50. We had Gene O'Kenny, who's the guy who got it over the line, and he had him on the last call, and he's going like, there's only 50 people on it after 6 years.
Wow. See again, but it needs a big push from people, because again, people, the voices of the masses are what make much, right? It's not just one person. You don't realize how strong you are as one voice with so many thousands of voices behind you.
Yeah, we need more mass.
Yeah.
We're struggling to get. We have kind of 420 will come around, and we'll have nice events and all of that, but we don't seem to be able to keep
protest the heck out of everything.
Yeah.
Even the laws here in Canada. Can I say, Stephen, even not for medical patients, but for regular people in Canada now above the age of 18, you can get 4 plants per household. And that to me is absolutely shocking that they would cut you off at 4 plants.
Come on. So people have to be inspired by this, you know, we have to be inspired by this, and we have to see it is possible. All of this has to come.
Yes. Yes. And again, the 4 plants we've bought so that we can have them any size, my friend. So again, you know, if you have a green thumb and that's what you want, then go for it. You know, again,
Absolutely. Oh, we can grow. We're allowed to grow five plants they're constantly arguing about whether it's 4 or 5 or whatever. But there's 5. I always have 5 every year. But the 5, you know, it's like, so I can, what I've done, so Irish people understand. So what the Spanish club scene system has afforded me is the ability to trial and error, trying strains, all the different strains again and again and again, until I found the one that sorted the issues that I want. My main thing is I want something to help me sleep. I want something to relax me when I want, and I have, you know, and I've found my perfect strains. My perfect strains are in the blueberries in that area.
My friend, beautiful. Good for you.
Yeah. And that's what I'm afforded here. And then I can go then I can step outside in the terrace and grow them, you know. And so it's like that's human rights. That's human rights.
That is. Can I tell you that in Canada, when I got my first license, it was 28 grams a day. And I don't know how many plants that is, but I was able to grow 28 grams a day. And then after a period of a decade or so, I went up to 150 grams a day because I deleted all my medications, my pharmaceuticals, and I was using more cannabis. So I was 150 grams a day when I finally got out of the program a few years ago. As I said, you know, you use what you need, my friend. I ate it, drank it in tea, ate it in cookies, ate it in food. I ate it in capsules. I did oil all the time, cannabis oil. Every single thing you can think of, I used. 150 grams a day for years. That was good.
Amazing. And so I want to just really, because you're a mine of information that, so we're all looking to Canada because you have numbers. You have it's going on now for how many years? You're 6 years of numbers, and you as a corrections officer, you'll be very aware of the teens, and it's constantly the same trope that gets spun out here about psychosis in teens. And I'm wondering, can you enlighten us a little bit on some of the results out there?
Well, certainly, yeah. Just actually for use in teens, I can tell you about personal experience. My doctor and I actually talked about this because she had two young boys who were placed in mental health care because of using cannabis. And I said
Right.
to her, the only problem with things like this is that it's not the cannabis that's causing their mental health issues. They already have these issues in their family history. And so again, it's maybe not as uh, inducive to the health condition to consume cannabis for that reason. So this is why I'm saying it's important that people look into things. It's not at all that we find in Canada that cannabis causes any mental illness. We finally come to that decision. The government is finally understanding that. But again, it will exacerbate conditions such as mental health conditions if you have the wrong strain of cannabis. So a little bit of both, but again, there's caution everywhere. That's why we have the rules and regulations we do in this country. You know,
Sure.
again, children are not allowed access unless they're medically given a license to consume cannabis. You know, children under the age of 18 are kept away from these things. Their brain is still developing. Their brain is not fully developed until they're around 25 years old. So all these things, again, working with young people, that was my first concern, Stephen, was the children. I didn't want children. I didn't want to see children walking up the street, smoking a joint and having a great day. I didn't want to see that. Just as a corrections officer, it didn't seem right to me. So I wanted to make sure that the children were taken care of and that we actually spoke about all the good things to do with cannabis, yes, but again, told them the things to be concerned about. So there
Yeah.
are concerns that way again with addictions, you know, and mental health. But ultimately, again, do your homework, right? If you have these issues in your family, maybe you shouldn't consume as much as you do of certain substances, you know, or maybe you should
Yeah.
talk to doctors first. I always say that too.
Yeah, absolutely. And we like this. We have the CUDs, the cannabis use disorders, and all this thing that are really filling the entire kind of a lot of the space at the moment, and it's become the new kind of reefer madness kind of trope. But it is certainly real, and so we have to acknowledge that. And it's about education. You educate your way out of it, I think. No.
You know what? Cannabis is not for everybody. It's just like everything. I've had
Yeah.
many pharmaceuticals over the decades that are not for me. So again, it's getting to know your body and how you react. And if for
Right.
some reason you have some kind of reaction that maybe frightens you a bit or does not seem quite right, talk to your doctors. Again, that's what they're there for.
So one more thing I'm going to press you for because I'm very conscious of the time because I can't keep you forever and we could be here all night and you're incredibly engaging and all the rest of it. But because I know that a lot of the patients in Ireland and stuff, and we have our police are behaving very badly in terms of driving laws. And I mean, taken in Ireland particularly, because we're such the road system is so spread out and it's so disparate, and people need the car to like live their normal lives because everybody's living in a small town or village that's so remote from other things. So the idea of having your license lost and stuff like that. So you have experience in Canada now at this stage of what's going on with the driving. You're on top of that as well.
You better believe it. Cannabis and driving, I have posted numerous studies over the years that there is absolutely no correlation with cannabis and driving in the bad way when taken by itself. But again, if consumed with alcohol or different substances, there can be
Yeah.
done. So people again have to educate themselves too. They have to know cannabis and driving is an issue in Canada as much as it was anymore, because again, we're educating the government and the country. But at the same time, the government and the police are sort of iffy about cannabis and driving. I, for instance, was with my partner, Gary. He drives, and I was smoking cannabis. This was a couple of years ago. And we got pulled over just in a spot check, a regular ride check, just to see if he was drinking. And of course, Gary hadn't been drinking, but I, of course, as soon as Gary opened his window, my cannabis smoke went out into the face of the officer. So right away, as I said, I was like, well, wait a second, I'm a patient and I'm not going to put my cannabis out because it's not affecting Gary the way that, they told us when we were young that it would. Gary doesn't find he gets effects from it. And so therefore, again, the government and the police are kind of understanding now a little more because patients like me keep speaking out about it. So we're not always arresting patients for consumption and impairment necessarily where cannabis is concerned, but they're still watching.
Right. I know it's a concern. I have a few friends that say it's a big concern for them because, and they're finally celebrating the fact that because like we've only got 50 people on this program, and so some of them are kind of that's their big fears is things like the issues of driving, and because literally our police will. They love now drug driving is something, and and it's in your system for such a period of time afterwards, and
thing with cannabis is it stays in your system for months.
Yeah, I know.
When you got pulled over and test positive for cannabis in your system, you may not be right at all.
No, there's no expression of impaired driving. It's just a test.
Exactly. It's just in your system. These are the other things that we've been teaching the community people in the government. Mind you, again, the government is still a little, kind of unsure of this issue. And we're going slowly. We've been legal since 2018 in here in Canada. So again, we fought for that for everybody because I know I didn't want to be alone.
Yeah.
So I just thought, oh, my friends were getting arrested. And I was like, why are they getting arrested? So no, I didn't want my friends in jail.
Again, I got my eye on the clock, and I want to move you on to your because you're so experienced in the field, and so I want to give us something for our Irish viewers and our European viewers about how can we move things forward, or what's you're the queen, I'd say, of this.
I adore you, Stephen. I will tell you, things are all over the internet now. When I was young, I was in the library all the time doing this, and now it's so much easier. If you find things, verify them, print them out, and please take them to your legislature. Take them to your members of parliament. Speak your voice. Say how much you actually require this, either as medicine or just as a human right. That you just don't want to be arrested for doing something that you can't see that there's anything wrong doing. There's so much stuff. Stephen, if we speak out again, one of my most sayings that I've been using again since I've been young is together we will. And that's the way I fight, because I can't do this alone, Stephen. You know that. We're literally
we're patients,
You betcha. And we're in this together, my friend. And remember, we don't have MS, we are MS. MES.
But sometimes I think that but it doesn't. The disease is kind of unforgiving. I know, and with when it wipes you out fatigue wise, then it just wipes you out. And so I've been struggling even with this channel. I need help, to keep going with this Instagram and the stuff around.
Somebody help this man, please.
Yes, come on. Give me a private message because I need help to build subscribers and do all the stuff that you do around these channels. There you go.
I couldn't do it by myself, Stephen. I never have been able to. I ran for federal office here in Canada just quickly in 2004, and I was the first person in the world to run with cannabis on my platform. I got news media from around the world because of that, and I remember then it was important that I get my voice heard. So I ran for federal office. That's another thing people can do. Don't be afraid to speak up. You have a voice.
Yeah, I know for sure. Look at well, we have the most inspirational voices as far as I'm concerned that I've come across in this space for quite a while. So I want to I don't know. Do you want to say anything to my humble audience before you go?
You know what? I want to thank everybody at the Irish Cannabis Clinic, honestly, from the bottom of my heart, and all of your viewers at Canada Talk, because we could not do it without all of you. Thank you so much, everybody. Honestly, Stephen, the voices again that speak out are the ones that continue on in history. So let's make that happen.